Year 12, ladies and gentlemen. Let's get going.
I'm gonna fully admit that my talk on No More Heroes 2 was really too negative and not befitting of a game I really like. Time to redeem myself! I guess in my opinion, the reason that I find No More Heroes better than its sequel is down to how much I enjoyed playing them. No More Heroes 2 I found to have more high points than its predecessor, but is let down by more frequent and lower low points. No More Heroes didn't have as many jaw-droppingly great high points, but I feel overall has a better level of quality and overall a nicer and more consistent level of enjoyment. Really, I've just been pulling crap out of my ass. Let's get into specifics. The story isn't akin to the emotional, moral questioning path its sequel took. Instead, Travis's sole goal in this game is to become rank 1, make a lot of cash, and do it with Sylvia Crystal. That's it. Travis being an egotistical, sleazy loser. And it's awesome! In terms of combat, which is the bulk of No More Heroes gameplay, I think it works better here. The way in which you can string high and low blows together into combos feels smoother and a lot more satisfying, and the slots that give you insane abilities work with combat a lot more when compared to Desperate Struggle, when you have the ecstasy gauge which defeats its purpose a little in my head. The other aspects of the gameplay, predominantly the overworld and the missions, also work better in my opinion. Simply having an overworld is better than a simple selection menu, but driving around Santa Destroy and seeing the town you live in is quite enjoyable, even though this will happen a lot. As ranked matches require cash to enter, you'll have to go do jobs around Santa Destroy. While not all of them are the most fun, action-packed minigames ever, they are still pretty fun and you do get rewarded quite well. But if you want to make a lot of cash really fast, try the assassination missions. These are probably the thing that I was most angry about when they removed them in Desperate Struggle. Essentially, the point of these missions are to accomplish an objective, like kill a certain enemy within a time limit, kill using only wrestling moves, or some other prerequisite other than just bluntly murdering. My favourite of these assassination missions is one of the final ones you unlock. An enclosed space. Enemies infinitely respawn. You get a good chunk of money for each kill. You have 3 minutes. Go fucking nuts. So much fun. In terms of the presentation, I honestly prefer the visual style of the original over the sequel. I don't know what it is, it just feels more defined and stylish, in the way that it has a comic book or manga kind of shading to it. No More Heroes 2, I will admit, has the better soundtrack, but No More Heroes isn't a slouch in that department. The main No More Heroes theme, Stop Hanging DJs, We Are Finally Cowboys, and No More Heroes are all just fantastic songs from the game, and the rest are pretty good as well. In terms of the assassins in No More Heroes, while it doesn't have fights on level of the insanely amazing fights of Margaret, Vladimir, and Alice in Desperate Struggle, the overall level of enjoyment I get from the fights here is still really high. With the clear exception of Speedster, there isn't a single fight I don't enjoy. Top mentions going to Destroy Man and Sir Henry Motherfucker. To put it simply, while No More Heroes 2 has greater highs and lows than No More Heroes has a much more consistent level of quality and enjoyment, and that's why I feel it's better. Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. This is a part of the list I have not been the fondest of getting to, because this part has a few games I'm certain are not looked upon as greatly as I view them. Well, I guess there's no way around it, so let's jump in with the very first one. For me, I had no clue that this game was disliked by so many until after Josh came out saying he didn't like it, and then everybody suddenly hates it. I will admit, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is well and truly not up to the same level as the first one, and the claims of it being a watered down version of Super Mario Galaxy aren't entirely untrue. But the way I see it, a watered down version of a game that was an A+, 10 out of 10 masterpiece is still a great game. What it really comes down to is that Super Mario Galaxy 2 is a level pack or expansion pack of Super Mario Galaxy, and considering how bloody fantastic Galaxy 1 was, I had a hard time not enjoying it. I've kind of given away that Super Mario Galaxy will be a bit higher on the list, so the main gist of Galaxy's mechanics will be talked about when I talk about the first one. For now, Galaxy 2. The main thing that Galaxy 2 really added to the game was Mario's trusty steed, Yoshi. Yoshi is pretty fun to use, being able to eat multiple enemies in a row with his tongue, pulling objects with his tongue, and swinging from flowers with his tongue. Along with his sweet tongue action are 3 additional power-ups for him: a blue fruit that allows him to inflate and fly through the air, a red chili that allows him to run insanely fast on ground and up walls, and a yellow fruit which makes him glow and illuminate paths for you to follow. Galaxy 2 adds a lot of cool new levels with great new design bases, such as the flying levels on the Buzzard, beat block levels, and levels incorporating the new power-ups, the Cloud Flower, the Rock Mushroom, and the Drill, but it also takes a lot of influence from other Mario games as well. A level with giant blocks and enemies, homaging the giant world in Super Mario Bros. 3, a slide level and the entire Thwomps Mountain from Super Mario 64, a beach level and an entire secret level from Super Mario Sunshine, and many homages to the first Super Mario Galaxy. In terms of the graphics, it looks just as fantastic as the first one. Every level has fantastic color palettes, vibrant landscapes and scenery to marvel at, and everything has a nice lively appearance to it. The same can be said for the music, utilizing a mix of synthesized tracks as well as some gorgeous orchestrated pieces. I'd have to say some of my favorite pieces are Yoshi Star Galaxy, Puzzle Blank Galaxy, Supermassive Galaxy, Fleet Glide Galaxy, Dig-a-Leg Boss Theme, Bowser's Galaxy Generator, the Final Boss Theme, and the Credits Theme. Just to name a few. It's a bit more than a few, but whatever. This might not be the most favoured aspect of Super Mario Galaxy 2, but I would be lying if I said I didn't enjoy collecting the green stars. It just felt like a more thought out method of getting the other 120 stars as opposed to playing through the entire game again. Basically, Super Mario Galaxy 2 is a step down from Super Mario Galaxy. I will fully admit that. Several aspects, I believe particularly in characters and plot, are severely lacking comparatively to the first, but that doesn't mean it's a bad game. It still is a lot of fun to play through, and there's still a lot of great enjoyable stuff to keep players interested, so let's just leave it at that. First of the not favourite opinions out of the way. Only gets worse later on. We really are starting to approach the finish line at this point, so it's only natural that franchises I talked about a while ago will be coming up again very soon. The particular example for the moment is the Mega Man series. Every single game from the Mega Man series that has been brought up so far has been exclusively from the classic series, which of course is the Mega Man I have the most experience with. Well, let's throw off the shackles of the classic series and try something a little more extreme. Obvious joke is obvious. Freaking Mega Man X. Ever since Egoraptor came out with his Mega Man sequelitis, this game has ascended into such a big plethora of fame. And I would be lying if Mega Man X didn't suck me into the hype. I mean, this game is kinda fucking great. While Mega Man X does carry the same platforming style and 8 bosses before a final set of stages from the classic series, it adds quite a few new elements that drastically change the formula. X has the standard jump and shoot of the Mega Man evolved, but now has a dash ability and can wall jump. The simple introduction of these two basic actions may seem as such on paper, but it changes so much when actually implemented. Dashing paves the way for longer horizontal gameplay in regards to scale, allowing you to race through levels and augment your jumping ability. Wall jumping entails the use of more vertical segments, jumping from wall to ascend and escape traps and hazards, as well as find shortcuts. Levels are designed to function around these new elements, with use of slopes and ascension segments. Speaking of the levels, with the clear exception of Launch Octopus's stage, there isn't a stage here that I don't like. They have a fantastic visual style, varying level elements, great music, and a very high fun factor. there's always some secret to find in each stage, whether it be a health upgrade, a sub-tank, or even a whole proper upgrade to X himself. One of the little things that fascinate me about the levels is how when you complete one level, it will sometimes change things in another level, like Spark Manjo's level not having the electric currents on the ground after you beat Sting Chameleon's level since it's now been flooded. As a whole, the presentation is like off the fucking charts. The visuals are fantastic, having areas with very metallic and inorganic areas with appropriate color schemes, and a lot of more natural environments with lots of life with the use of varying degrees of color and contrast. The music is also top notch, most of the tracks making heavy use of bass lines, and for me, that's really good. Most of the Maverick's signature weapons are pretty good to use, and all of them have their functionality. Their abilities are increased to a much higher degree when, like with your standalone Buster, you can charge up the specific weapons to create so many unique variations of attacks, like a wall of electricity, a wave of fire, a screen-wide tornado, and even things that are more for utility, like temporary invulnerability and rideable platforms. Being part of a series that is known for its difficulty, Mega Man X has almost the perfect difficulty. There's nothing ever too challenging that you can't take on. The difficulty has a reasonable slope of difficulty that nearly anyone can get absolved in. So, pretty much what I'm saying here is that Mega Man X is freaking amazing. The level design, the weapons, the visuals, the music, and the great difficulty curve make Mega Man X well deserved of all the praise it gets. And yet, it's not my favorite Super Nintendo game. Nor is it my favorite Mega Man game. My favorite is coming up next. Here it is. My favorite Super Nintendo game and my favorite Mega Man game. It's far from the fans' favorite in either of these two categories, but that doesn't matter to me. Number 27 is Mega Man 7. Yeah, this is my favorite Mega Man game. Weird, right? Whenever Mega Man is brought up in any context, this one tends to slip under the radar, unless it's to point out how no one remembers it or how it's bad. But in my eyes, it is the finest of the entire franchise. Now, I'm just spouting bold statements at the moment, let me get to my justifications. Due to Mega Man 7 being released after the amazing spectacle of Mega Man X, it inevitably borrows some of the aspects from the side series, such as an intro stage, the visual and music style, and an overall more serious tone. And I feel this is a fantastic asset. It has a great blend of the classic Mega Man formula and the newer, fresher Mega Man X style, making it quite one of a kind in a sense. The level design is something that I find very enjoyable. Every level is very different, utilizing varying hazards and obstacles, such as an underwater level with rising and falling water levels, a junkyard level with cranes, lava, and elevator sections, a haunted castle level with enemies that change depending on whether the moon is visible, and a level full of various springs and bouncy platforms, making the level particularly interesting. However, my favorite level in Mega Man 7 and the entire Mega Man series for the matter, is the level of my favorite robot master, Slash Man. The whole stage is a robotic Jurassic Park, with various robotic dinosaurs to fight, rideable raptors over spikes, a chase with a robotic T-Rex, and then a forest area with hatching baby dinosaurs. This level is just fantastic. Great music, great visuals, great level design, great enemies, and of course, a fantastic Robot Master. On the topic of Robot Masters, I feel that Mega Man 7 has a very good selection of Robot Masters. There isn't a single bad Robot Master here, with the clear exception of Springman. Pink and bouncy. Run in fear, children! You've heard about my favorite Robot Master, Slash Man, the badass robotic Wolverine of the Mega Man universe, but there's also the robotic vampire Shade Man, the race car transformer Turbo Man, the turban-wearing lightning wielder Cloud Man, and the cool as ice Freeze Man. Being completely honest, most of the weapons available in Mega Man 7 aren't the best in the franchise, most of their usefulness being limited and situational. But for me, I usually didn't have any of them selected. I was dependent on the amazing Super Adapter, a fusion of the two adapters from Mega Man 6, which allows you to fire a homing fist charge shot and execute a second jump from a jetpack, at the cost of your ability as a slide. I pretty much used this at every opportunity I could. It is easily the best weapon in the entire franchise. There, I said it. It's so functional and so effective that there's very few scenarios where it doesn't come in handy. I guess overall you can say that I hold Mega Man 7 as my favorite Mega Man game because I feel it has the best soul to it. With the story elements of Mega Man X being utilized here, the story feels overall a lot more impacting, and I feel that I actually care more about the characters than I did in previous Mega Man games. And Mega Man himself feels to gain more of a serious side, literally about to execute Wily at the end of the game, making him almost the first Maverick in history. In the end, I really like this game. Sometimes when you like something, you just can't explain it. So let's just move on. When it comes to gamers getting into their favourite franchise, it usually only takes one gobsmackingly good game to get someone hooked. And these games that get them hooked demonstrate the style of the series, illustrate the strengths of the design, and overall convince them to continue playing further games. Looking at these qualities, nearly any game from the Kirby series would be an excellent first game. Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland, Kirby and the Amazing Mirror, Kirby Superstar, and Kirby 64 are just some of the games that... Wait, did I say Superstar? Yeah, Superstar is good and all, but do you know what's even better? If there could have been any game that introduced me to one of my favorite franchises, I am so glad it was Kirby Superstar Ultra. Not only is this a fantastic game by itself, it does everything a good remake should do. Take an already popular and awesome game and stuff it full of even more awesomeness. Now, I'm aware that some people like the original Superstar more than its remake, and some even completely hate the remake. Well, those people, I don't much care for their stupid opinion. Alright? For those who don't know, the popularity of Superstar is that it featured a total of 8 playable modes, referred to as 8 different games, meaning that there was so much to explore and so much to enjoy, as each game had a particular specific design change, such as adding time limits, making it open-ended, and a treasure hunt, or what is considered the best mode, remove the ability to copy enemies, and instead permanently have your copy abilities with you that you can cycle between. Superstar Ultra, of course, contains all of these modes, but added 4 additional modes: Revenge of the King, an updated and harder variation of the very first mode, Spring Breeze, with new enemies, mini-bosses, and 2 new stages. Meta Nightmare Ultra is essentially the main 5 modes of the initial game, being played as a speedrun and as Meta Knight, who has access to his own arsenal of abilities dissimilar to Kirby. Helper to Hero, where you play through a variation of the arena, but instead of playing as Kirby, you play as one of the spawnable helpers you can use in the other modes, restricting you to a single copy ability. And the big one, the True Arena, a souped up version of the arena with harder bosses, fewer healing items, and less chances for copy abilities. Shit, I spent all this time talking about the modes and not about the actual gameplay. There's really nothing to fault. The controls are smooth and tight, levels are never too difficult, using copy abilities is a hell of a time, and everything just seems to work. Even the co-op system, which I've never used due to no one I know having this game, and as such is a moot point to bring up, and as such I should focus on. Every level is very well designed, the pixel art being very detailed with vibrancy and color, making each level a real ball to play through. Music, of course, like any Kirby game, is amazingly memorable and very well composed. I can guarantee playing through Superstar Ultra, there will be one piece of music that will stick with you. And I can also praise Superstar Ultra for adding the amazingly awesome Galacta Knight to the Kirby series. Stare into his white and pink color scheme and despair! Really, there's not much that can be said to do this game any more justice. This was my very first Kirby game, and it is through this game that I got into what is now one of my favorite video game franchises. So yeah, it's kinda special to me. Oh, God. Right from the moment I ranked this game, and really understood how high I actually placed it, I knew I would have to reopen a can of worms. A can of worms that practically destroyed every shred of credibility I had more than 2 years ago. Well, here it is. My 25th favorite game, kicking off the final quarter of this journey, is Metroid Other M. Oh boy, we're doing this shit again. Yeah, I highly regret ever making my top 5 overrated under games list, and my address of this game is one of the reasons why. Instead of well thought out rebuttals and expressive statements about why I like this game, it was more, my opinion is correct, everyone who's against it is a dumb shit, and I hate you, and you should go die! As utterly horribly and frankly dickish I handled my approach to the game, hopefully I can redeem myself right here and now. Probably not, but at least I'm trying to fix my mistake. Now, Metroid Other M is far from a beloved game. Hell, some people consider this game the game that killed the Metroid series. Well, as you can tell, I still like Other M. I'm sticking to my guns and proclaiming how much I like this game. I think one of the most notable things about Other M at a glance is that this game looks utterly fantastic. These CG cutscenes look good enough to be on PS3 or 360, let alone the Wii. Other M truly pushes the graphical potential of the Wii to its limits, and it shows in these cutscenes. Just like most Metroid games, it does a great job of establishing a strong and effective mood and atmosphere. The use of dark shading and the inorganic structure of the facility creates an amazing cold and desolate atmosphere. You really have that feeling of being alone in an isolated facility, yet, at the same time, you feel like there are eyes on you everywhere, creatures just waiting to pounce from the shadows. It's beautiful in its way. In terms of gameplay, it's surprisingly really good. I was a little taken aback by the concept of every single piece of equipment in Super Metroid being utilized on just a Wii remote, but it ends up being actually pretty fluid. The controls are actually pretty natural, and the way the auto lock on, the dodge system, and the quick step work iron out any faults the control scheme really had. And the first person mode I feel is quite effective in its execution, allowing more precise shooting on particular targets, and while you may get hit by enemies while in this mode for a bit, you can quickly learn that moving the remote to the side as you're about to get hit will allow you to dodge. The music is similar to the rest of the Metroid series, is actually fully orchestrated rather than being synthesized, and I honestly like it quite a lot. Orchestrated music's always resonated with me, so the soundtrack's pretty damn good in my books. Now, most people who dislike Other M are fine, or at least tolerant of these elements. It's the story where Metroid fans tend to start hating this game. Look, I'm not aiming to turn haters into lovers or anything with this segment, because it's kind of a little late to be attempting any rectification. All I'm attempting to do is try and justify why I don't utterly despise the story like many fans. While the story is no prize-winning piece of literature, it's far from bad enough to kill the entire Metroid franchise. It's kind of overblown the hate the story gets in my opinion. The monologuing of Samus is a little overdone, but it never really bothered me that much. I don't feel that Samus's character was ruined by this game, mainly due to the fact that this was the first Metroid game I actually ever liked. This was my first look into Samus as a character, and I didn't find it off-putting. I actually kinda like how she messes up from time to time, that she makes mistakes, she isn't observant, and at times lets her emotions get the better of her, because that makes her more human. And yeah, her depiction here is flawed and isn't identical to her depictions in other games she's in, but I think the amount of flack she gets is absurd. So yeah, Metroid Other M. A lot of you probably hate this game. Hell, I'm very much the minority in this instance, but I consider this the first Metroid game I actually enjoyed playing, and is one of my favorite Metroid games. Now let's move on before I screw this up. Holy Mother of Christ, yes! My god, is this such an awesome game. When having to make a game for the 20th anniversary of the Blue Blur, Sega had a tricky situation. Make it a classic Sonic game would play to Sonic's roots, but not embrace the Sonic the series has come to be, and also be too similar to Sonic 4. Make it a modern Sonic game, and classic Sonic fans would have endless outcries about what Sonic has become. The solution? ¿Por qué no los dos? Boom! It's brilliant. I think this is one of the few modern Sonic games that actually managed to satisfy pretty much everyone. Now, I have Let's Played this game, and I did have quite a number of complaints in terms of the controls and forced challenge jacks, but I know now that I had a really crap TV at the time that delayed all button commands for practically a full second. And in a high-speed game like Sonic, just a second's worth of delay is enough to kill you in certain situations. but as soon as I got a new TV, all my issues were instantaneously gone. For both classic and modern Sonic, the controls are tight and responsive, leading to quite a lot of smooth and fast gameplay with little complications. With classic Sonic, you can also find little tricks that are available in the Genesis games, like the dash jump, and for modern Sonic, you can utilize all the abilities he's had in Sonic Unleashed, like boosting, air boosting, quick stepping, drifting, wall jumping, lightspeed dashing, and stomping. Being a celebration of Sonic's 20th anniversary, all the levels are remastered and revamped versions of levels from previous games. All the stages are recreated faithfully and creatively, maintaining a similar visual style and feel of each stage, while also adapting it to better function with either of the two Sonics. I have to say, out of the collection of levels, my favourites are Chemical Plant Zone, recapturing my childhood nostalgia, Speed Highway, embracing my love for speed in both level and in name, City Escape, an insane and crazy level capturing the intro of Sonic Adventure 2, Crisis City, redeeming in the eyes of fans the level in question from 06, and Rooftop Run, with its beautiful European architecture and fantastic feeling of speed. In terms of remastering things, they didn't just stop with levels. Excluding the final boss fight, every boss fight in Generations is based on a fight from previous Sonic games, such as the Metal Sonic Chase from Sonic CD, Perfect Chaos from Sonic Adventure, and Silver from Sonic 06. In terms of the Silver fight, this is one amazing redemption. Going from this
It's no use!
to this is fucking awesome, and everyone can see that. I mean, this might just be my favorite boss fight in Generations. It's just so damn good. Of course, I would end up having to address one thing. The one thing that, regardless of the quality of the game, is pretty much undeniable. The quality of the soundtrack. With the soundtrack being comprised of remixes of old level themes and old songs from prior games, my god is it fantastic! I would have to draw particular attention to a couple pieces of music, first being the classic remix of Chemical Plant. Just as Sonic 2 was my first game, Chemical Plant is very nostalgic for me, mainly due to the music, but the Genesis version of the music can go get buggered in some dark corner somewhere because this remix blows it out of the water. The same melody and harmonic lines, coupled with a new pounding rhythm section and disco tunes, makes it outshine the original in my opinion. Now, most people's favorite remix in Generations is usually the classic remix of Crisis City, which has been playing this entire entry, but personally, my favorite goes to modern Crisis City. Just have a listen. Sonic Generations, a fantastic 20th anniversary celebration of Sonic the Hedgehog, and stands as my third favorite Sonic game. Keep on trucking, Sonic. Good days are hopefully in store for you. A lot of this list has been comprised of a lot of games that I find undeniably nostalgic. I mean, we've had the first game I ever played, and quite a few games that are nostalgic to the point that nostalgia is nearly the only reason I like them. I guess, strictly speaking, there are only 2 games left on this list that I consider nostalgic for me. And you can tell where this is going. My second most screw the elaborate intro. Hit it! Frickin' Rayman 3 Hoodlum Havoc. What can I really say here? This was my very first PS2 game I owned and played, and frankly is my favorite PS2 game. I really don't know where to start with this game. There's just so much stuff that I love. I'm not saying this as a way of emphasizing my opinion. I legitimately don't know where to start. Level design. Always a good place to start. Being one of my introductions to 3D platforming, it does so much right. Every level is both designed differently and similar enough to each other that they transition to one another so flawlessly. Levels have a great deal of color and atmosphere meshed into every stage, ranging from enchanting, mellow, murky, scary, exciting, frankly beautiful, and just so damn enthralling. From the natural world of clear leaf forest, the enchanting and lively summit beyond the clouds, the downright gorgeous and beautiful land of the living dead, and the spooky and creepy desert of the Canaran. Hey, I mentioned transitioning between stages a minute ago, didn't I? I think I forgot to mention the level transitions are frickin' jetboard stages with disco tunes blaring out the wazoo and trippy multicolored backgrounds that make you feel like you're tripping out. Holy crap, these are just so much fun. For those of you who know Rayman, you'll know that the gist of his gameplay is that he launches his fist as a projectile for an attack and can spin his mohawk like a helicopter blade to slow his descent. These frankly would be enough to make a game, but Ubisoft simply couldn't help but add some of the finest power-ups in any game into this already great formula. These power-ups include letting you shoot tornadoes from your fists to rotate platforms, coating your fists in steel to break down doors and rip apart enemies, turning your fist into a guided missile, and donning a helmet to fly great distances. But I'm missing a power-up, aren't I? One of my favourite power-ups in gaming history, the Lockjaw. From your fists, you can launch chains that grapple onto hooks to allow you to swing and traverse gaps in your path. It sounds like a typical grappling hook, I know, but it can also latch onto enemies and continuously damage them. By electrocuting them. You heard me? Electrocution. I don't understand how or why the Lockjaw is capable of doing this, but I just love using it so damn much that I don't really give a shit. I have to say that Rayman 3's soundtrack is downright amazing. I feel that some of my intrigue in music that I have now is solely due to this game's fantastic soundtrack. The way that there really is no consistent battle theme, that every time you fight a group of enemies it uses a different music track, the way the music blends so well into both the foreground and the background simultaneously is so utterly amazing. I just find this game so nostalgic and so much fun, and I haven't even gone to the boss fights, the comedy of the game, the great variants of enemies, and just so much I could talk about. I just find it so unfortunate that this is the Rayman game everyone forgets about. This game is one of the defining games of my childhood. There is one game that is more nostalgic than this for me, but that's a story for later. Putting it simply, if you can get your hands on a copy of this, play it. You will not regret it. It might have been apparent already, but the fact that I like the Mario spin-offs as a whole more than the actual Mario platforming series will become apparent by the time this project reaches its conclusion. In particular, I love the Mario RPGs. I could give a brief summary for them, but I've already talked about half of the ones on the list already, and I'm getting to the rest of them in a bit. Probably the most popular of the Mario RPGs is the Paper Mario series. I've already talked about 3/4 of the games in the series, and by going on this tangent you guys can tell that my favorite Paper Mario game is the black sheep of the series. Out of all the RPGs in the Paper Mario series, isn't it convenient that my favorite, Super Paper Mario, isn't an RPG? This is the main aspect that crowns it as a black sheep. Super Paper Mario is a 2D side-scrolling platformer, with a gimmick of being able to flip into a 3D plane for a short period of time. The style is completely dissimilar to the Paper Mario series in so many glaring ways, but I still find it my series' favorite. It's a weird scenario, I admit. Well, in my opinion, while it removes so much of the Paper Mario norm, the exclusive additions to Super Paper Mario I feel are superior to the elements of the traditional Paper Mario series. Boy, I just said that out loud! Let's start getting into the elements I like. I'm rambling on at this point. The RPG turn-based combat is of course replaced with simple platforming stomp on the head combat, which is one of the main critiques of the game. While I may get a touch monotonous at times when this game is around the same length as a proper RPG, and most combat is just bopping enemies on the head, the overall combat is simplistic and effective in its design. A main core of the Paper Mario series was a system of having partners with different talents and abilities. The partner system isn't in Super Paper Mario, but instead you can play as multiple characters: Mario, Princess Peach, Bowser, and Luigi. Each one has different traits and abilities that are useful in different situations, which can make the level design quite intricate in which character is useful in what situation. You also have access to fairies known as pixels, which provide all the other potential partner abilities, such as blowing up obstacles, carrying you over hazards, performing ground pounds, and hitting stuff with a hammer. In terms of what I specifically like about this game, there is a crap ton of stuff. For one, I love how each chapter takes place in a different world, each with a different art style, design, and palette, in scenery and character design. I feel that this brings so much more life and individuality to each chapter, in turn making every level memorable and a great experience. Super Paper Mario also has the greatest soundtrack in the entire Paper Mario series in my opinion. It's hard to explain, it just has so much character and expressiveness in each of the pieces, and there are so many tracks that I can't get out of my head. I mean, my favorite final boss theme in the whole Mario series, titled The Ultimate Show, is in this game. It's so fucking fantastic. But despite that, I would have to say that the best piece of music in this game has been playing this whole entry, titled Champion of Destruction, which is a sad and somber rendition of the main villain Count Bleck's theme, which plays as the world of the Samurai Kingdom is erased from existence, and as Count Bleck himself lies defeated and asks the heroes to finish him. That's my favorite part of Super Paper Mario. Despite all the bright colors and comedic quips, this is easily the darkest Mario game that has ever been released, with so much suffering endured by so many characters, death looming over the entire expanse of the game, and just so many surprisingly deep and mature moments for such a childish looking game. While Super Paper Mario may not be the most fondly looked upon in this series, I wholeheartedly believe that this is the greatest Paper Mario game ever made. Think of that what you will, but that's just simply how I view it. Let's keep trudging on. As anyone who knows the slightest bit about me would know, I adore the Legend of Zelda series, and I've drilled that point in over so many of my videos that it's such a cliche for me now. The Zelda series for me is the pinnacle of all video gaming, encompassing everything I find great in video games into one series, with the magna opus of the series being in the 3D Zelda games. Oh yeah, we've finally reached the first of the 3D Zelda games on my top 100, the games I consider the best of my favorite video game series. And of course, it's time for me to disclose which of these 5 potential choices is my least favorite. And the answer might be surprising. Ocarina of Time. Claimed as the greatest game in the Zelda series, and on many occasions the greatest game ever made. A game that revolutionized gaming and is hailed as a time-honored classic and masterpiece. And yet, I consider it my least favorite of the 3D Zelda games. I found this initially surprising as well, especially after putting in my top 3 favorite Zelda games back when I made that list. So, it's taken quite a hit in terms of my favorite Zelda game rankings, and I guess I have to talk about it now. There's no point discussing specifics in terms of gameplay, story, dungeons, music, and all that crap because most of you know it all already. All I can really discuss is my experience with it and my opinions as such. First and foremost, I didn't play this game when it was fresh and new, and when I was just an unexperienced little tyke. I played it 9 years after its initial release, so of course in terms of graphics and sound, I wasn't exactly sent flying across the room by how high-tech it was, because it wasn't by that point. Also, this was the 3rd 3D Zelda game I played, already having played through 2 other Zelda games that were more recent and more advanced in the technical sense than Ocarina of Time, making its scale not as impressive as it could have been. So really, there wasn't that much that felt very legendary or groundbreaking when I first played it. Additionally, I feel like I have the least emotional attachment to Ocarina of Time out of any 3D Zelda game. Pretty much with every other one of these games, I've always had an emotional moment and feelings of both happiness and sadness whenever I've reached the end of them, completely absolved in the experience. Ocarina of Time at the end, it was just like, that was a really great game. And that was it. There just wasn't that much that managed to hit me at a deep level in comparison to the other Zelda games I had played prior, and even the games that I have played as of now. It's tragic and unfortunate, yes, considering how much this game does right, but I've never really forged a connection with it like I have with the other 3D Zelda games. Now, I probably sound like I'm being very negative here and shitting over a fantastic game, but that's not my goal here. Ocarina of Time is fucking amazing. I mean, it wouldn't be up this high on the list if I didn't believe that. It deserves the praise it gets as a classic and legendary game because it undoubtedly is. In a game sense, it's packing a fantastic and memorable soundtrack, a wide array of intricate and enjoyable dungeons with a clear exception, tight and effective controls, a great variety of items and equipment, and of course the story of the hero of time ties it all together. And in a larger sense, it revolutionized what adventure games are now known to be and what every adventure game strives to be like, as well as laying the groundwork and setting the benchmark for the rest of the Zelda series. and while it may not be the peak of the series from my perspective, it is still a larger-than-life game that I feel everyone should play at least once. The tale of the Hero of Time is a timeless legend, and that is exactly what it should be hailed as. A legend.